Well, peace and blessings. Oh, I come from a participatory tradition. It's culture shock. You're going to have to work. So what I'm going to do is share a little bit of my story. First, I'm going to teach you a song, and that means that you will know it when it's time for you to sing it. Right? Yes. Okay, here are the words. I flow from the mountains to the valley. I flow in the river through the plains. I flow from the creek to the ocean. And through the air, I come back again. I flow from the mountain to the valley. I flow in the river through the plains. I flow from the creeks to the ocean. These are good. And through the air I come back again. You gotta do this. Okay, you guys are good. Give yourselves a hand. That's the song of the water. When I end my presentation, I'm going to tell a story about the ancient Cosmos Society. And last night it just came to me that this is the song of the water. And so I don't have any pictures up here. I want you to have pictures in your heart. I want you to visualize your favorite space in nature. And as I'm talking, if I kind of bore you, just I flow and just be flowing through your own space, okay? Because my piece is really about combining creation, care, and contemplation. So a little bit about my story. I was introduced to permaculture when I did Katrina response work. I was opening a healing arts center in New Orleans, and the Common Ground organization said, "Oh, you can't bring children here. The toxic stew has been through here. We got to fix it for you." And I said, "Great, please do." And so they took soil samples and sent them off for fancy tests, and came back and said, "Well, this means we plant sunflowers here, and we grow mushrooms there, and we do lasagna gardening every place else we can't fix it." And so they did. And so I had this beautiful garden of sunflowers that went up the walkway to the house. And that was the second, I guess, of two watershed moments that happened in 2005. I had produced an environmental arts camp for middle school-aged boys in Southern Virginia. And what was amazing was that by the end of the 7 days that we spent on 80 acres, the boys were not playing together. They were hiding from the adults so they could go pray together. We didn't tell them they had to pray. I had them doing activities from 7 in the morning to 11 at night because they're boys, right? But I noticed that their transformation, and we changed their diet. And I had a really good, mama kind of person who said, "You're going to eat this because I'm a good cook." And, by Wednesday, they were believing her. But the point is at that moment, I decided I was going to do all of my ministry in nature. And then a few months later, Katrina hit, and here I was again, restoring nature. Before, we were asking nature to restore us, the human soul. And in New Orleans, we had human souls restoring the soil. And that's what gave me the name for my mission enterprise, Soil and Souls. And you can go to my website, revdele.com. There's a Soil and Souls tab. It is not pretty, but it will give you information. So that's that. So as a part of this journey, so after that, I went to some family land in Virginia and started practicing permaculture and started to have this kind of communion with the animals in the forest. I was on 13 acres of woodlands, and I watched, little deers grow up, and it was really amazing because they had this annual activity of every time they came crashing through the forest, there were two of them, pow, 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 and as soon as they saw me, they would go, boom, 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 and it's like cartoons, boom, boom, boom. And they did this like twice a year, every year for several years. And then one year, I saw a deer coming really close to the house, and I went outside, and here are my two deer that were teenagers now, and they were strutting their stuff, and they had two little antlers. Well, I had lots of encounters with animals where they would come up to me to have a conversation. And I don't know that I understood it all, but I was open to that possibility. And I think it is because of the contemplative practice. So that's something I would just invite all of you to do, is just find a space to be quiet, and you'll find that they will come to you. You don't have to go seek them out. I wanted to share because some pieces of an article that's coming out, and I read it to Paula yesterday, and she said, "Oh, I like that." I said, "Well, maybe I'll share it." So I am. The article is "Give Mother Nature Space in the Movement." And this is about moving conversations in nature and environmental justice from national campaigns to practice in real people's lives. The movement requires that we walk a path of communion in nature and balance. Communion and balance not only create a space for Mother Nature in our environmental movements, they create a space for Mother Nature to refill our souls with compassion and grace. The tricky part is not to segment our ideas into spiritual realities and material realities, and to understand that, like in the song, it's one flow. Now, we may have to get rid of some ideas that Western philosophy really likes. You know, like we can actually separate sacred and secular, and that we have, either or. And I just invite you to consider ideas of both and. Let's see. What we're talking about is activating a part of our faculties that we don't use all of the time. And I call that kind of heart-based, our heart-based intellectual, faculties. We have lots of ways of knowing. We know emotionally, we know intellectually, and when we're in nature, there's an extra something. There's an extra psychic, I guess a combination of psychic engagement that is not possible anywhere else. And my premise is that human beings were geared up for that. We're made to interact with nature. We're made to have a symbiotic relationship. And that without that, we cannot have mental and emotional balance. I want to say that this idea is not new, that even in our proverbial wisdom, in our wisdom literature, we find that Mother Nature and God were hanging out with humans, a long time ago. Okay, Lady Wisdom in Proverbs 8. She and God were considered, they had a sensuous kind of relationship, and if you don't believe me, go and read it. Okay, Lady Wisdom guided God in the formation of earth and was in communion with humankind. She found both companions delightful in what I call our first beloved community. There was intimate knowledge with one another. Communication was respectful and kind. Diversity was observed, as were the boundaries of each other and the boundaries between each other. And because the human being was created for communion with our Creator, replicating that communion is important in many spheres of our lives. Just as we experience communion as we care for one another within our justice movements, we must make room for communion in creation. What's communion? You can explain it as those sacred moments when we are in balance with nature, one another, and our Holy One. Communion can be explained as appreciating and operating in harmony with the diversity of ecosystems as they were created. Only when we maintain personal, internal balance with nature will we have the wherewithal to maintain social balance and justice in society. Mother Nature, as wisdom in this passage, is a sentient being to be honored and related to on her own terms. Accordingly, Mother Nature must be seated at the table of the beloved community, not as a table decoration, but as a voice to be heard and a principle to be followed. The beloved community is a concept made popular by Martin Luther King Jr. as the end goal of the civil rights movement. This philosophy says that all of humanity is meant to live together in harmony with one another. And while Martin Luther King Jr. championed the ethical use of environmental wealth, there is no mention of nature having her own seat or integrity. We unseat Mother Nature when the solutions to climate crises are all human-centered policies, to the exclusion of practical solutions which engage us in earth care. When Mother Nature is heard, and I want all of you to listen to this, when Mother Nature is heard, we revert our lawns back to their original ecosystems, and we plant food crops as polycultures that interface with animal systems. In performing these simple practices, we will reopen our dialogue with Mother Nature and necessarily re-engage her natural cycles of land use and land rest. As we resume natural cycles of work and rest, we regain the ability to tell time by the change in the atmosphere as the sun rises or sets. We tell seasons by the presence or absence of our favorite songbirds. In short, we regain the intimate exchange of thoughts and feelings between ourselves and nature, which characterize any communion. Right now, we don't even recognize that Mother Nature is missing from our environmental movements. And if you can unseat your mother from her rightful place and not even realize she's gone, what other atrocities are you capable of? Our ability to be a sustainable human race requires our ability to balance mental and emotional selves within the context of creation. Caring for creation is a blueprint for community care and a precursor for justice in human society. In order to rectify any injustice, be it economic, racial, or environmental, we must first rectify our relationship to creation. And when nature is not part of the justice culture, we find activists always on fire and usually burning themselves out. Justice culture usually consists of activists keeping themselves pumped up for a fight. And I say this as a sixth-generation minister activist, okay? I know about staying pumped up for a fight. But rather than increase our addiction to fiery fights, we must balance those addictions with the calmness of earthwork and the refreshment of water service. This can be as simple as organizing meetings where people work in gardens as they chat, or valuing speakers who have a calm message and soothing delivery. Perhaps sit by a fountain on campus and allow your reflections to be the text for the day. I maintain balance myself by rising before the sun and meditating on my oneness with the divine. This makes me very sensitive to my surroundings, and it calibrates my emotions and senses to the natural rhythms of life. I then have the experience that harmony is possible in my daily work life. And within the full brace of creation, our body, mind, emotions are renewed, refreshed, and fully restored. I found that as I walked or worked up and down the eastern seaboard and hung out with returning farmers, young adults, this was the kind of life and refreshment that they lived and craved for. I found people who left fancy jobs, who left $35 million contracts, and neurophysicists who left because they said, the Spirit told me to go work the land. God told me to go grow food. And they did it, just like that, because of that voice inside. Because nature is a constant and consistent prescription to heal ravages of the human psyche, the military uses sounds of nature to restore a soldier's humanity after they have experienced constant violence and serial trauma. When I did Katrina response work, I found that disaster relief organizations did the same. Likewise, when justice workers continuously fight systemic injustice and dysfunction in community, they also experience traumatic disorders. Therefore, to preserve our humanity, activists must be intentional about imbalancing the balancing lessons and the therapeutic presence of creation. Justice can best be restored by those who experience justice in the form of balance. And if we want to do justice, we must first be justice. What we call justice in human society is first called balance in nature. Nature, as the epitome of balance, is a 24-hour display of harmonic movements. Solar activity is a movement. The jet stream is a movement. The tides are a movement. Seasons of vegetation are movements. Biodiversity flourishes with innate balancing acts. And that is the core understanding of justice. Human activity operating within a template of natural law, not human activity operating within human rules that are often broken. Our ancestors taught us to prepare to face injustice in nature. Africans who were brought here and were working for freedom often worshiped within what they call brush harbors. This is a place in nature under bushes. And it was in that place of communion with nature, that we found the strength and the will to fight something that seemed to be, unending. Jesus embraces several environments in his journey for justice. Look at how he ventures into the garden to pray, always seeking and engaging a space that naturally enhances communion with the Holy One. Then, having internalized lessons of justice from nature, he is able to administer justice in human society. Often we mistake the tactics we use to achieve justice as justice itself. Justice is a principle, fairness, or balance. Justice is not a rally, a policy, or a march. These are just some of the many tactics used to achieve justice. The first justice tactics must be internal, so that we experience the spiritual form of justice, which is balance. And when we are comfortable with balance in our being, justice will be normal in our daily life. I flow from the mountains to the valley. I flow in the river through the plains. I flow from the creeks to the ocean, and through the air I come back again. I flow from the mountains to the valley. I flow in the river through the plain. I flow from the creeks to the ocean, and through the air I come back again. A long time ago, not very far away, the Cosmos Society met. And every year they met to make sure that all of the elements were doing their job. Well, this year that they met, air was first. And air came forward and said, humans. They took air out. Well, then sun was next. Sun says, I always do my job. I rise every day and I wake everybody up. And the wise ones follow me all day long. The clouds, they get jealous. They try to cover me up. But it doesn't happen. I give my gift continuously, warmly, and gently, without holding on. I shine on the wicked and the righteous evenly. And sun strutted off. Well, then we had Earth. And Mother Earth had to be helped in with all of the helpers, all the animals, all the insects, all the beings. She wasn't feeling real well. I give to everybody. You can plant one seed in me and look at how much you get back. But these humans, they drill holes and they take my blood out. And then they pour all the pollution inside. Just tell you, the place got quiet, just like it's quiet right now. And the other elements looked at each other. And even water, who was very joyful and flowing, had to retract. And he said, humans, 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 what are the humans good for? What are the humans good for? And the chant started in the back of the room, and it said, humans are good for nothing. 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 Humans are good for nothing, until finally Moon said, wait! Yes, 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 the humans are problematic. Yes, they tempt us to give up. But there is one quality that the humans have that we don't have. They eyed each other suspiciously. What was Moon up to? Moon is just always trying to romanticize everything. And they said, all right, Moon, tell us, what are humans good for? And Moon said, humans have the ability to love. And people thought about that, and they thought about the power of love and the power of transformation and how everything actually comes into being through love. And with that, water clicked on the song, and we said, I flow from the mountains to the valley. I flow in the river through the plains. I flow from the creeks to the ocean, and through the air I come back again. And through the air I come back again. And through the air I come back again. Oh, wonderful. Give yourselves a hand. That's it. Was there any questions about my work?
We have time for a couple of questions. Any questions? Any answers? All right. Well, Reverend Dele will be around. Oh, wait, we have a question. Can you teach us another song?
Let's see. There's another song that goes to another story. What is it? Okay, we'll just do an easy one. You guys know the ocean refuses no rivers? Yeah, some of you do. I sing it a little differently because I can't sing that long and complicated word in the middle. So I do it. The ocean refuses no river, no river. The ocean refuses no river, no river. And I do Alleluia. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The ocean refuses no river, no river.
All right. All right.